On today's show, the Capitals fight back and win a wild one in Tampa.
Your Locked On Capitals, your daily podcast on the Washington Capitals.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Well, hello and welcome into this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. My name is Dan Holme. I've covered the Capitals for the last 3 seasons for Locked On and various other outlets before that. I'm also the host of the weekly show called The Capitals Minutecast, available wherever you find your podcasts. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Just visit FanDuel.com to get started. So in this edition of Locked On Capitals, we talk about how the Capitals had to fight back and win a game in Tampa. This was not an easy game for the Caps, and if you had just watched the first period, well, you very well may have thought the Capitals lost this game. How did they turn it around? I'll talk about that a little bit later. I'll talk about second period comeback. The Capitals had some tenacity. They had some pushback, and ultimately what got them into the game. And then in the final segment, I'll talk about what pushed them over the top and put it in the win column. Now, just to get it going here, talking about the game tonight, this was a game that had a little bit of everything. Oftentimes, when you watch these games, they're kind of carbon copied. You know, this team has a lead, they lose the lead, they come back, these kind of things. This game had a lot of everything. It had a crazy performance from Charlie Lindgren. It had an unfortunate circumstance with Dylan Strome, and a lot of goals being scored. Mangiapane, Strome, Protas, Carlson, Wilson, and also for the Lightning, Brayden Point achieving a hat trick. And I'll talk about later as well, but Lindgren with his crazy night, clearing the puck into his own net. Wilson scoring the game-winning goal. Protas, Strome, and Wilson each recorded assists. This game had everything, and I'm glad they found a way to win, because there were points in this game that I thought, it's just not going to happen. The Tampa Bay Lightning are just too good, and we're starting to realize why they win Stanley Cups on a semi-frequent basis there. And, considering the last time the Capitals played the Lightning, they lost, you can kind of start to draw those kind of conclusions. And to be clear here, head coach Spencer Carberry wasn't too happy with the way the game started. It was evident on his face. He was irritated. There was a lot of slop out on the ice, and a lot needed to be changed. And you got to think he was pretty happy with the end result, but this was one of the games, if they did not find a way to clean it up and batten down the hatches, this one could have very well gone in favor of Tampa. And it was a tough first period, to say the least. The Capitals were clearly outplayed early on, facing relentless pressure from Tampa Bay's big guns. And they have a lot of big guns there. They have a lot of guys that can score goals on the regular. Brayden Point in this game, lighting it up. That's what I'm talking about. If you underestimate the Lightning for a moment, well, they will make you pay. And it's good that the Capitals had that pushback. Like I say, otherwise it could have gone in a different direction. But first period was very tough. Shots were flying, and their sloppy play led to costly turnovers that led to the Lightning getting on the board, and ultimately why the Capitals had that uphill battle just from the very beginning. And it's one of the things that I think the Capitals are struggling with since Ovechkin has left. We've changed the lineups, and it seems to be a bit better, but have we hit the sweet spot? Have we found the lineup on the ice that is going to make it so the Capitals don't have to push back so hard? And I know that it wasn't a blowout, but to be able to play the game in a cleaner style where, you take on an opponent like the Lightning that you don't have so many obstacles to overcome. One key moment was a block shot that turned into a rapid 2-on-1 for the Bolts. Jay Gensel, as we know, has a lot of offensive firepower, made a brilliant play, finding Brayden Point, who scored to put Tampa up 1-0. And there you go. The Capitals are already trying to push back from a deficit. And like a lot of other teams, the Caps play that much better when they have a lead. But this year's team is a bit different. They're not like last year's team, where they didn't seem to have a lot of pushback. This team was dialed in, and trying to come back from a deficit, that's a tough thing for any team, and things didn't get any easier when Taylor Radish took a penalty. That was one of the themes of the game as well. Is it's hard to win games when you're in the penalty box. Allowing Point to capitalize on a power play, his second goal of the night, putting the Lightning ahead 2-0 in this game. And this is where the wheel really started to wobble for this team. That they were starting to just take the game and just make it their own. That the Capitals fought, they struggled to try to get back in this one. So you take a look at it, they found a way to push back. But those struggles, like I said, are things that are going to have to get cleaned up. And one of the things that Spencer Carberry was speaking about earlier is that he thinks the lines are pretty good right now, but there is definitely room for improvement. And what kind of changes are going to need to take place? We know that Ovechkin is going to be out the next 4 to 6 weeks. Are we going to arrive at a lineup where the Capitals don't constantly have to try to be fighting their way in these games? And the sloppy play, those are the things that are going to have to get cleaned up if they want to still be in it when Alex Ovechkin comes back. We don't want to get into a point, where the Capitals were free falling. They lost a bunch of games, and now that Ovechkin's back, we got to find a way to win games. That is something that they don't want to have to face. And that was kind of the case in the first period here. If you were going to summarize this team and how they've struggled when Ovechkin's not on the ice, you saw that in the first period. They did find a way to batten down the hatches. They found a way to turn it around, and that is what has given me hope that they're going to be able to persevere when Ovi's not on the ice. Because, like I say, if they don't find a way to turn it around, it is going to be a rough 4 to 6 weeks. But in any event, the team did find a way to turn it around, and there is a lot to feel hopeful about this team, and hopefully they can continue with that going forward. All right, so coming up here after the break, we'll talk about the second period comeback. Now, I talked about the first period in the first segment, and if that's all you took away from the game was the first period, not too great. A sloppy team, a team that isn't destined for anything. This year's Capitals team has a lot of pushback and a lot different than a lot of the Capitals teams that we've seen in the years past. I'll break it down straight ahead. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place, and there is a lot of football that's played on any given Sunday or Monday or Thursday, and some of those games you're into and some of them you're not. But if you want to be interested in those games, open up the FanDuel app, put a little bit of money on those games. All of a sudden, they got that much more exciting. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. And that is the frustrating part. Your favorite band is coming to town, your favorite sports team's playing, and you either A, have a hard time finding tickets, or B, you don't know what the stage or the playing surface is going to look like from where you're sitting, take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON NHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. All right, welcome back into this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. My name is Dan Holme. You can find me over on Twitter. It's at DanCaps218. You can find the show on Twitter. It's at Locked On Caps. And I want to thank all of you for making this your first listen every day. And in this next segment here, we're going to talk about the second period comeback. And that was something that was a fist pumping moment as a Capitals fan. As you know, sometimes I'm resigned to the fact that, it's just not going to go their way. Okay, the first period, the Capitals struggled. It's over. Okay, I guess I'm going to have to talk to everyone about a loss, that the Capitals lost again. And it's easy to take those negative paths. And sometimes it's hard to say, hey, maybe something great's going to happen. But that was the case tonight. A lot of great things happened despite a lot of sloppy play on the ice. And ultimately, what makes it fun and a bit of a roller coaster ride as a Capitals fan, to see so many different players scoring, to see, that with this team getting it done without their captain, there is a lot to be excited about. And, it wasn't just a second period comeback. There was tying it. There was Tampa getting the lead, going back and forth until finally, in the third period, the Capitals captured the lead. But definitely, I walk away from this game feeling happy, feeling optimistic. And some people might think to themselves, happy, optimistic. Did you watch part of this game? I did. I did see that first period, and it was rough. But the second period in this game is what gave me hope. And it is definitely what this team is about this year, is that they have some pushback, that they have the players out on the ice that can deliver that kind of pushback. And that is what was exciting for me. And a lot of moments, despite a rough first period that had me pumping my fists into the air at home, watching it on television. Maybe you do that as well. So just when it felt like the Capitals were sinking, and maybe you felt like that at home, the second period rolled in. And what a turnaround it was. You got to think that Spencer Carberry read these players the riot act during the intermission break there, because it was a changed team. And just from watching Spencer Carberry, I know I haven't had any one-on-one meetings with him, but he is a very intense individual. Now, there's the guy that you see on the camera, the guy that's very pleasant and cordial and has a smile on his face. But then there's the Spencer Carberry that you see on the bench, and he looks irritated. He's talking to himself under his breath, clenched jaw. He looks irritated at times. That I think in that first period, he was so disgusted that whatever was said between the first and second period definitely resonated with this team, because it definitely turned around. Andrew Mangiapane lit the lamp to bring the score to 2-1. Beep, 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 beep. There is some life in this team. There is some pushback. And the crowd, the Capitals fans that were in the crowd, were on their feet. And the one thing I'm going to say about watching the Capitals play around the country is they do have fans all over the country. And in this case, Tampa. Alexei Protas, as we know, who has been huge on the top line, playing with Dylan Strome and Tom Wilson, and it's changed a little bit here. I know that before Alex Ovechkin was playing on that top line, and things kind of changed a little bit throughout the game. That I think that Spencer Carberry was trying to get the team going. But in general, Alexei Protas has been a pleasant surprise for me this year. And I think that confidence is what is really taking place with him this year, that he is playing more confidently. And I think that he has just an excellent rapport playing with Dylan Strome. And you take a look at it, he did have the answer. Alexei Protas broke free, scoring his first career shorthanded goal. And just like that, it was 2-2, and the Capitals were in it. A tie game. And some of these games, you think to yourself, what's the big deal? What's the big deal? This was the big deal because the Lightning are really good team, and oftentimes the Capitals struggle playing the Lightning. But you saw that as well when the Capitals played the Panthers. That this team definitely has the answer, especially, and they have the pushback, and is ultimately what makes this team really fun to watch this year. Sometimes, they get a little sloppy, but all teams do that. They found a way to turn it around. The thing of it was, and this is what tested the Capitals, is that Tampa wasn't done yet. Michael Easymont snuck one past Charlie Lindgren, putting the Bolts back ahead 3-2. And that's one of those moments I'm thinking to myself, it is too good to be true. The Capitals are going to find a way to blow it. But it wasn't over. The Capitals definitely did have the answer. Just when it seems like it couldn't get any worse. And I'm going to be honest with you, I felt like turning off the TV tonight when I watched this. Lindgren accidentally scored in his own goal, pushing the score to 4-3. Can you believe it? It was a tough thing to witness, and I'm glad the Capitals found a way to turn it around and pick up a win. Because if that is what had happened, I think that. I think that Charlie Lindgren would have had a hard time overcoming that. And I think that just the look on Spencer Carberry's face is like, are you freaking kidding me right now? I cannot believe that just happened. But a tough moment for Charlie, a tough moment that tested the Capitals. But ultimately, it is what it is, as they say. Sometimes these things happen. It's not the first time that it's ever happened in the National Hockey League, but you feel for Charlie Lindgren, as it was a pretty good outing for him. I would say the first goal of the game is one that he probably wants to have back, and the frustration about shooting the puck, I know that he thought that there was a defender behind that he was going to shoot it to, wasn't there. And it went into the back of his own net. And I think that maybe to a certain extent, this competition between Logan Thompson and Charlie Lindgren is maybe getting to him a little bit. That it's this quote unquote friendly competition, if you know what I mean, that there's going to be a loser in this situation. I think at the end of the day, it's either going to be Charlie or Logan Thompson. And let's be honest, Capitals fans, I think that Logan Thompson has a bit of an advantage in this game, or in this season, rather. He has just been playing that well. And, that's me reading into it. Maybe it was just that tough of a game. But the thing I'm going to say about Charlie that speaks volumes of his character and what kind of player that he is that he made some really big saves after that. Now, if I was the netminder out on the ice and I just shot the puck into my own net, I might have just wanted to skate and just say, I'm waving the white flag on this game, guys. Logan, you're going to have to finish this up. The embarrassment must have just been, something almost unbearable for him to have to deal with. But he's a professional, and he found a way to kind of just let it roll off of him, if that's possible. So a tough moment for the Capitals to overcome a situation like that. Tying the game, giving it up to Tampa again, and then finally finding a way to score and get the lead in the third period. It was a tough game to watch at points, but at the end of the day, I'm happy the Capitals found a way to overcome, and they lived to play another game, and they won. That's the big thing. All right, so coming up here after the break, I talked about the comeback in the second period here, but how did they find a way to fight back and ultimately turn this game that went back and forth into a win? I'll discuss straight ahead. PSA for anyone who rents: if you haven't heard of Built, you're about to thank me. Earning points on rent is now a reality when you pay your rent through Built. You don't even need to have to check with your landlord to start earning points. that you can use towards flights, hotel stays, fitness classes, and even your next rent payment. Let me break it all down for you. There's no cost to join Built, and as a member, you'll earn valuable points on rent and on your everyday spending. Built points can be transferred to your favorite hotels and airlines, and even the ones you haven't heard of. There are over 500 airlines and 700,000 hotels and properties around the world you can redeem your Built points toward. Points can also be redeemed towards a future rent payment and unique expenses that only Built members can access. So, if you're not earning points on rent, my question is why not? Start earning points on rent when you're already paying those bills by going to joinbuilt.com/locked on NHL. That is joinbilt.com/locked on NHL. Make sure to use our URL so they know we sent you. Joinbuilt.com/locked on NHL to start earning points on your rent payments today. All right, welcome back into this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It is your team every day. So, talking about the Capitals and finding a way to win a game, a really big win, I guess I'm going to say. And when I say a big win, sometimes people think it was a 6-1 victory or it was, a really big deficit. But this was a big win for the Capitals because there was a lot of pushback, and the Capitals were tested. They found a way to tie the game, and then they found a way to give up the lead. These kind of things. It was back and forth, but things changed. The script flipped in the third period, and the identity of this team is becoming more apparent. The final moments and victory, it looked grim, but this team, this year's Capitals team, has heart. They have pushback, and this is not the team of last year. Dylan Strome, who lost what appeared a couple teeth in the game tonight with a high stick, stepped up to tie it at 3-3 with a gritty goal showing the determination we love to see. Now, in a dramatic twist, John Carlson evened the score at 4-4, setting the stage for a nail-biter. And with just 4 minutes left, Tom Wilson channeled his inner leader, throwing a beautiful shot into the net, giving the Capitals the lead at 5-4. So a bit of a breakdown of the scoring in the game and ultimately how the Capitals found a way to overcome. Dylan Strome, just, what else can I say about him as being huge on that top line and finding a way to find the back of the net. And he is the ultimate competitor and has been huge for the Capitals all season long. John Carlson, again, even though he is on the blue line, he is a guy that finds the back of the net. Not quite as often as he has as of late, but he does have an offensive flair. And Tom Wilson stepping up and showing that leadership role is ultimately why I think he is going to be the future captain of this team at some point. It was a pivotal goal Tom Wilson scored, extending his point streak to 3 games. What a performance from him, especially in Alex Ovechkin's absence. So Capitals fans, this was what it's all about, pushback. And, sometimes you play these games, they're not going to be easy. And you know what? I don't want them to be easy because if the Capitals do have plans for making it to the playoffs, well, they're going to have to endure, tough teams. They're going to have to find ways to overcome. And Lindgren and the defense held strong through the final moments, securing the hard-fought victory for the game and for the Capitals. And you take a look at it, what a roller coaster game for the Capitals as they were up against it the entire game. The first period, Tampa got the lead. Second period, the pushback. The third period was the one that pushed them over the top and put the Capitals into the win column. That is the identity of this year's team. A lot different than what we've seen in I'm going to say at least last season and, kind of the last few seasons here, is that they have struggled. But what is it all about? It's about the younger players stepping up, taking on bigger roles, more mature, Connor McMichael. And it's also the newer players that came in have been huge. Roy, Chikrin, Dubois, Mangiapane, these kind of players. And, I know Logan didn't play tonight, but that's what I'm talking about. That these players that were brought in are helping take this team to the next level. And ultimately, at the end of the day, that is what we like about this year's team, and what ultimately gives me hope that this team can not only make it to the playoffs, but B, also make a deep push into the playoffs. And I know that we're at the quarter point of the season. It's like the first mile marker that is, a test of what your team is made of. And right now, I think the Capitals are doing pretty good. This team was rolling very well before Ovechkin got injured, and there was a bit of a speed bump, but I think all things considered, the Capitals are in a pretty good position. Let's hope they can keep it rolling as the New York Islanders are on deck. All right, once again, I want to thank you for joining me on this edition of Locked On Capitals, your only daily year-round podcast covering the Capitals. And I want to thank all of you that listen on the audio side and watch this on YouTube. You are what makes this show successful. All right, once again, I want to thank you for joining me on this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It is your team every day. My name is Dan Holme, and I'll talk to you again next time.